In a traditional horror game, you're usually the good guy running away from the giant creature that is terrorizing the nearby town, or you're tasked with being the hero and stopping that creature. Whether it's a zombie or a shadow monster or even just some rogue AI, in a horror game, the monster is always the bad guy. But what if you got to play the monster? What if you were just trying to break out of your captivity inside a lab and you were done being tested on? It would surely flip the roles then, wouldn't it? Well, that's just what Phobia Game Studios set out to do. Carrion is a 2D metroidvania-like reverse horror experience. You'll take the role of a multi-tentacled, shape-shifting monster as you try to leave the facility. Throughout your journey breaking out, you'll come across upgrades that'll drastically change the way you play, and even a multitude of enemies threatening to cut your breakout short. Will you be smart enough to outwit them, or will you charge in head first, just making a run for the exit? Now, with every Metroidvania, you're going to be going through multiple different biomes in different areas, unlocking new abilities and then backtracking to explore new places. It just comes with the territory. In Carrion, the main premise of each area will be to find biomass nests. These not only act as save spots and respawn points, but upon finding all of the nests in an area, it will open up an exit to another area. But unlike in other Metroidvanias where you have to unlock double jumps or you have to unlock wall climbing or any of that kind of stuff, Carrion allows you to outreach your tentacles and pull yourself to the location, meaning that most places are easily accessible right from the get-go. This also translates to movement being smooth and incredibly responsive, allowing for quick traversal. That's not to say that the upgrades you get don't assist you with navigating through the area, however. For example, as you make your way throughout the facility, you'll have 3 different forms that you can change into depending on how much mass you've acquired. Whether it be a small, medium, or large mass, these change the amount of health that you have, but also the amount of abilities you can do once acquired. The small form is going to be more of a stealth approach that will have you activating switches from afar, or going invisible as you sneak past lasers, and just generally trying to avoid any kind of altercation. Whereas when you do get some mass and get into the next form, now you can start taking the fight to the enemies themselves. You can take a little bit more damage, and now you have a charge ability that not only can break through barriers, allowing to access newer locations, but can also help you make an entrance against unsuspecting victims. And then later down the track, when you've acquired enough mass and upgrades that you can access the larger form, all hell breaks loose. Now you can send out your tentacles attached with spikes to pull obstacles towards you, or fling them into a room and pull every poor soul towards you, and in an attempt to feed your ever unsatisfiable hunger. But not every encounter can be solved by brute force. Sometimes you'll have to really plan out a specific room, and by that I mean sometimes upon entering a room, you may not be able to progress because of the form you're in, and an ability that you'll need. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to travel to one of these red pools of water to deposit mass, shrinking yourself down to be able to complete whatever ability puzzle you'll need to solve. But once the puzzle is solved, you can come back to the mass you've deposited and change back into your normal form. Or, if for some reason nothing you can do will help you access any of the room's switches or secret puzzles, then why not get the people in the room to do it for you? About 2/3 of the way through the game, you'll be able to use an ability to possess people. Once possessed, you can have them flip switches for you, open gates, or even attack their own colleagues in the same room, thinning out the crowds so that you can make your way in and not take a lot of damage. All of these abilities and the fact that you'll have to shrink down multiple times to come back and get mass mixed with the different areas do a really good job of giving you obstacles to overcome without them being so obnoxious that you can't do. Even myself, who's normally really bad at games that involve any kind of puzzle solving whatsoever, I found myself able to complete most of these without any hard thought. However, I did notice one thing that unfortunately soured the experience from time to time, and that's the lack of a map. See, in any kind of game that has you backtracking, getting an upgrade, coming back to another location to access that thing, usually there's some sort of map or navigation, or even if it's a blank map, usually there's some kind of item that you can get to mark a specific location, helping you remember where you're supposed to go in the future. Unfortunately, Carrion does not have that. Considering the game length of about 4 hours on an average playthrough, I can understand the reason to not put it in, as it would have required a lot of game assets that may not have been used entirely. Whereas in Hollow Knight, the map gets so expansive by the end of the game that not having it would just leave you completely lost. But the lack of not having a map means that when you do get to some of those later stages that you'll have to backtrack to different areas, but remembering where the area is or how to get there or what surrounds it even, you'll end up running around the map for 30 minutes trying to figure out where you're supposed to be going. And in a game where accessing the portal at the end of each mission can all take you to an entirely different biome with its own independent map, I feel like having some sort of navigation would have helped a lot. Now, even though you're the new big bad monster on the scene, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to just steamroll every single room or every person that you'll come across. Remember how I said that you were at a research facility? Well, apparently these guys counted on you breaking out eventually, and have therefore hired some of the most intensive security. As you travel around, you'll come across the normal scientists that are more or less just basically a health pickup along the way, but as you make your way deeper or further in, you'll come across the normal scientists that'll have handguns or the security guards. These guys needs to be respected, as if you get too ballsy and just start charging into a room, they have a shield they can pop up, and if you make collision with it, you'll be pushed back. So now that you can't just run in and charge into them, they'll just fill you full of lead, forcing you to retreat and rethink your strategy. That also mixed with sometimes they'll have flamethrowers. It really enforces you evaluating the situation before becoming monster toast.
Oh my God, help me, I don't want to die!
Humanoids won't be the only thing you fight though. As you get deeper into some of the research facilities, you'll come across laser turrets and sentry drones. This spices things up in the variety that you can't tackle every single type of enemy in the same fashion, especially when you get to the human-powered walkers. Mechs equipped with 2 miniguns that, if you're not careful, will shred you in seconds. So you'll have to get crafty to survive, picking off the enemies one by one and showing them you are a force to be reckoned with. But when you're not being turned into Swiss cheese or being set on fire, the overall ambience and overall world design is a great backdrop to the overall tone of the game. From the sound design, setting an eerie backdrop of chains rattling and the screams of your victims, to the animations of enemies and the reactions of scientists running for their lives, you get the feeling of a realistic environment. One that as you go deeper into the facility and more people know of your escape, it's almost as if they know you're coming, and so they hide in bathrooms and cower. It's details like this that really drive home the feeling of dread for those you chow down on, and the necessity to put you down with urgency. It's something that most games miss, but Carrion hits it on the head. Much like the human sections as well. Throughout the game, you'll come across little areas that you can squeeze into that'll give you a insight into what was happening before your breakout. It'll usually have you playing as a human, that'll have you flipping switches or investigating things, but this gives you an idea as to what the people are looking at prior to your escape. All in all, I enjoyed this title. It offered up a challenge with puzzles and combat sections without being frustratingly difficult, but it also gave a different spin on the monster horror genre. It's on Game Pass at the moment if you'd like to check it out, or $30. And for that price, it's well worth the price of admission.